Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, and a big welcome in to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates, our independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, and WOW Cable Television affiliates in select markets. Thanks for joining us, as well as on Hotel TV in all Nielsen-rated markets in about 600,000 rooms, as I've been recently told. It's been getting crazy out there, folks. We're getting bigger and better. Well, maybe just bigger. I don't know. In any event, the show is getting bigger and bigger. We've done over 2,100 episodes, and listen, it's a circus, and we prove it every day. We don't rehearse anything. There's no need to rehearse anything because that kind of takes the fun out of it, if you know what I mean. All right. And a big welcome in, by the way, to everybody on Chicago Food Favorites over on Facebook. Make sure you check that out, folks. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, and tell them the circus sent you. That's me. I'm the one-man circus. All right. Speaking of circus, now that we're done with the who's going to be in the NFL playoffs, we have the brackets, right? So we have to talk about the bracket. We got to do that. Everyone's going to talk about the bracket. I'm talking about the bracket. And of course, in the first round, we're going to start on the AFC side. It's Buffalo hosting the Denver Broncos. You know, here's an interesting thing. In the last show, we talked a little bit about the Denver Broncos and the point spread, the Vegas line. And so, of course, being here in Las Vegas, it makes it a very interesting conversation when the Kansas City Chiefs opened up at -4.5. And then, of course, by some crazy miracle of sorts, it was the Denver Broncos being favored by 10.5. Yes, 10.5. It's a 15-point swing.
Show me the money!
Right. Show me the money. That's what this was about. And so if you thought that the Kansas City Chiefs were going to, first of all, play any of their starters, they didn't play anybody of impact. And secondly, if you thought the Kansas City Chiefs were going to win the game, well, yeah, I don't think so. So the fact that they lost 38-0 really doesn't mean anything because they played a bunch of reserves. And basically you had a broken Coke machine out there next to a bag of balls. I mean, it was just that kind of a game. And so when you look at the lineups, Denver was fighting for their their lives. And if they won, they were in. Now, if Denver lost and the Miami Dolphins lost, the Cincinnati Bengals would have gotten in. Which, I mean, look, nobody in the AFC, and frankly, in either side, AFC or NFC, nobody wanted to see the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll tell you that right now. Nobody did. They'd much rather see Joe Burrow sit on the bench at home or whatever, just go out and play golf, than see him on the other side saying, uh-oh, we got to beat this guy. So instead, they said, you know what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to get Bo Nix in there. Now, I like Bo. Bo is a very, very good quarterback. And for all you people listening in down on WAUD over in Auburn, Alabama, look, everybody over there had a taste of what Bo Nix could do. The problem was they had Brian Harsin driving the bus, and that was a big, fat no-no. Here you bring in, I don't even know what Auburn was thinking about. You know, they get rid of Gus Malzahn, who has beaten Alabama, and they say, you know what, Gus, we don't need you right now. We're going to go ahead and we're going to let you go, and you can go sign with Central Florida, right? We'll get to that in a minute. Well, the reality is, Gus Malzahn goes there to play in the American Athletic Conference, which is now, of course, Central Florida is part of what? The Big 12. And so what does Auburn do? Auburn brought in Brian Harsin from Boise State, who did not grow the program. All he did was maintain the program. Did not grow the program whatsoever. And he just, frankly, wasn't qualified. But at that time, Bo Nix came over to Auburn, and he was a student athlete. And he was just in the wrong system. So after a little bit of time of frustration, a couple of years of that nonsense, he said, you know what? I'm going to make a change, and I'm going to go over to Oregon. And so Bo Nix goes to Oregon, sets the world afire, ends up last year's Heisman voting somewhere in the top 5. The problem was Bo Nix actually had the best numbers out of all of the quarterbacks in the Heisman voting last year. It wasn't Jaden Daniel. Now, Jaden turned out to be one hell of a pro quarterback, just like Bo Nix. But Bo Nix had the best numbers, right? Why are we talking about this? Because Bo Nix has matured very, very quickly as a very effective leader for the Denver Broncos, with their receiving core, a pretty good one, and their defense, a pretty good one. I'm not going to say they're going to beat Buffalo. I can't see how they beat Buffalo. However, any team on any given day can win in the National Football League, especially if...
Show me the money!
Oh, right, that's right. Especially if there's a little bit of money involved. Right. So anyway, in this case, I really can't see Buffalo losing to the Denver Broncos at home. But again, anything could happen. But that Buffalo squad, boy, those guys are tough. They've got a big, strong quarterback with an enormous arm, really good receivers, a really good defense. But both of these two teams are a little bit soft in the running back position, which makes it a very interesting matchup between the two. You got two guys with big arms. One doesn't even know what he's getting into. He does what he does, and he's never been there before, being Bo Nix. And Josh Allen certainly knows what he's getting into. I guess my point is this will be a fun game to just sit back, grab a bowl of popcorn and your favorite beverage, whatever that may be, and watch this game and have a little bit of fun with it. Now, moving down the bracket, it is a AFC North battle between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. So the Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Baltimore. I got to tell you, man, Baltimore is playing really, really good ball right now. And Derrick Henry, they finally figured out how to really use this guy. Now, it's not like they didn't know how to use him, but they've actually got him acclimated, or I should say inserted into the offense, where you may recall at the very first game of the season, they gave Derrick Henry the ball. I think it was against the Kansas City Chiefs. They gave Henry the ball probably about 12 or 13 times in the first half, and Henry did not see the ball in the entire second half. And so Baltimore's trying to figure out what they should do. And in that game, it was Lamar Jackson running and running and running, taking all the run opportunities away from Derrick Henry, which obviously is not the best case scenario. You don't want your MVP caliber quarterback to be hung out to dry. And now think about this. Go back to that Denver-Kansas City game, that blowout game. Kansas City started Carson Wentz. Now, Carson Wentz, when he started in the league back in 2016, he was a big guy. I think he went to North Dakota State, if I'm not mistaken. Either that or it was, I think he was with the Bison. Either that or South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits. I don't know. My point is, he's another big quarterback, just like Josh Allen. And he was doing very, very well in his rookie season. But what did he do? One time he got out of the pocket, and it was a game, I want to say it was against, who the hell was it against? It was a very tough game. It was a divisional game. It could have been against Washington at that time. The Redskins. I forget which team it was. but he got out of the pocket along the near side, watching the TV screen. He was at the bottom of the screen, was rolling out, and he was running with the ball. And he got drilled because, remember, once the quarterback is outside the tackle box, outside that little halo, then they can be hit just like a running back or a wide receiver or a tight end. And this is exactly what happened to Carson Wentz. So I think about guys like Lamar Jackson running around the field. It's only a matter of time before this guy gets hit and possibly gets injured and worse, ends his career. So what was Pittsburgh going to do against Baltimore? They're going to contain Lamar Jackson in the tackle box. That's the only thing they can do, and hope that they could somehow play the ugly game and beat those guys. That's going to be a very tall order. I don't see how Baltimore loses the game. In the same light, at the bottom of the bracket, it is the LA Chargers. Of course, I want to call them the San Diego Superchargers. I want to call them that. But no, they're the LA Chargers, exactly where they started. And they're going to travel to Houston to play a very good Texans team. Well, for Houston, they were in this position last year. Well, the Chargers were not. But the Chargers did not have Jim Harbaugh as their coach. And these guys are playing the best defense in points against in the National Football League. These guys are good. They got a lot of pieces. They got a running game, a passing game, a really good defense, and Harbaugh is a defensive coach on top of it. So Houston is really going to have their hands full. They're not going to get by the Chargers. In fact, we're going to continue on with the AFC and then shift over to the NFC when we come back from break in just a few minutes. Folks, don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call
714-948-0100, 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Yes! All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our network affiliates, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the San Francisco 49ers, the New York Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcoming everybody else up and down the West Coast on all of our independents and affiliates. Of course, we want to call out our friends over in Auburn, Alabama once again. WAUD, that's 1230 on the AM dial, and that's home of the Atlanta Braves. Right, nice round of applause for them. And WDJY 99.1 FM over in Atlanta. Thanks for waking up with us and everybody else. And pick your favorite market. Geez, we have access to, or better yet, our content is delivered to about 215 radio stations across the country and a whole lot of TV stations. Of course, if you can imagine, it's hard to just keep yelling these things out. So we just kind of call out some of our favorites. And we hope they're your favorites too. All right. And of course, a big welcome back to everybody on Chicago Food Favorites. And you know, right now, I can't say what time it is right now because we're in different time zones, right? So this program is aired at 8 a.m., for example, in Atlanta. It's aired at 6 p.m. in Auburn, Alabama. It's also aired at 3 p.m. where? In Honolulu. And all different markets, all different times, all over the place. So right now, everybody on Chicago Food Favorites watching, you know, it's time for, I'm going to say, White Castle. What do you think? White Castle hamburgers, folks. I tell you what, we're going to give an astounding round of applause for them. That's the super applause, by the way, folks. That's the super applause. Hey, listen, it's live. Anything could happen. Hey, you know, oh boy, that's another story for another time. I can't talk about it right now. But anyway, all right, back to what's going on with this wild card weekend. Now, I did cover the Buffalo, Denver, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, LA, Houston. It looks like it's probably going to be Buffalo, Baltimore, and the Chargers advancing on that side. How about on the NFC? And how about, yes, the Chicago Bears, yes, beating Green Bay, yes. Of course, everybody watching on TV right now can see that I have on Walter Payton's jersey, yes. And the Bears go up to Lambeau, and they shock Green Bay 24-22 on the final play of the game. How exciting is that? Very exciting. And so as a result of that, the Bears made sure that Green Bay is going to have a very tough opponent, and they're traveling to Philadelphia. So they finish in the last playoff spot, number 7, and Green Bay now has to travel to Philadelphia to play Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts and those guys over in the place where, yes, they booed Santa Claus. That's right. That's right. That's what they do in Philadelphia. Throw snowballs at them. They boo Santa Claus. City of brotherly love, my ass. I have to tell you, I don't think there's a whole lot of love in that place, but it's a city of hardworking people. But their Philly cheesesteak sandwich, not very good. No, not at all. In fact, if you compare that Philly cheesesteak sandwich to the Italian beef from Chicago, It is day and night. As a matter of fact, the Italian beef sandwich from Chicago, created way back in the early I want to say it was late 1920s, early 1930s. It was perfected by, of course, our friends that own Al's #1 Italian beef at 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago. Folks, they've been around since 1938 officially, 1938. And I have to tell you, if you don't know what that is, check them out, alsbeef.com. If you're in Chicagoland, of course, go down to Al's Beef and tell them, of course, I sent you. Those are friends of the show. We don't get anything for this. Maybe an occasional beef sandwich or something. But you compare Philadelphia. You know what it is? Philadelphia, the people over there are so pissed off that they don't have an Italian beef sandwich. Right? They're stuck with this god-awful Philly cheesesteak sandwich. And it's basically just some real low cut of meat thrown on a flat top. And they put some onions and peppers with it and put some cheese whiz on it. Slap it on a bun and say, here you go, kid. Whereas the Italian beef sandwich, to actually prepare the beef, it takes about 20 hours to actually make it properly. It is a very, very different animal, and boy, does it taste good. It is literally night and day, day and night. And so, of course, maybe that's why Philadelphia, the people aren't so happy there, because the food is very mediocre. Well, guess what? They're going to be pissed off because, guess what? They have to play Green Bay, and that both teams are wearing green. How do you like them apples? But this one should be Philadelphia. Although Green Bay is a very good road team, not this time. Now, here's another good road team, and it's the Washington. Of course, I always want to call them the Redskins, but I can't do that because now they're the Commanders, right? They're the Commanders. Get out of here with that. But anyway, Washington, a very good Washington team with Jaden Daniels, their superstar rookie. Man, this kid is good. He is legit. And I admit, I was one of those guys, he's no good, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? This kid is good. His team is good. Everybody is good around them. But the one thing that they bring to the table, now they're traveling down to Tampa to play Baker Mayfield and company down there. And I'm going to get to those guys in a minute. They got paid. But Washington, they have the intangibles. I had this conversation, maybe about 3 hours ago with Colonel Bucky, who is our longtime producer. And he does the Uppercut Chops commercials and the announcements when we go on break. He does all those, and he's a Hall of Fame broadcaster. And of course, I always want to give Colonel Bucky lots of love. But we were talking about the matchup between Tampa and Washington, and it turns out that Washington is one of those teams. They just find ways to win. Whether it was, for example, against the Bears, my beloved Bears. It came down to the last play of the game. It was the Hail Mary, whatever. They found a way to win. They did the same thing to the Cincinnati Bengals. They did the same thing to this team and to that team. It's just what they do. They find ways to win games. Now, they're going down to play a very good Tampa team that can play a little bit of defense, but offensively, those guys are good too. You got Baker Mayfield is really coming to his own down there in Tampa, and this kid is doing it. And you know what? I'm not going to call him a kid, this guy. Of course, everyone is younger than me at this point. But anyway, of course, I'd call them all kids. But Baker Mayfield is a very good quarterback. He's got some very good receivers. And their defense is pretty damn good, too. We had Larry Foote, their defensive coordinator, their current defensive coordinator, on this program during this season, if you will. And Larry Foote was telling us ahead of time, back then, that was the show we did with Al Bubba Baker, the quarterback breaker and the rib maker. Of course, we had Al Baker and Larry Foote on the show. And it was a very good discussion on what Tampa planned on doing during the season. And everything that Larry said they were going to do, they did it. And they found themselves winning the NFC South, of course, over the Atlanta Falcons. Right. You see, I put the laughing track in there because I always want to call them the Falcons. But our good friend Tyrone Poole, two-time Super Bowl champion and American Ninja Warrior, always says, well, man, they're the Falcons. I'm like, no, they're the Falcons. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Either way, none of it matters. But anyway, so we think of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the division on the last game of the season. And guess what? Now they've really got their hands full with a very good Washington team. And, here's another matchup. This one is over in Los Angeles. It's going to be the Rams But I don't even know what to make of these guys. It's going to be the Rams hosting the Vikings, who just got their asses kicked by Detroit. Now, it is Sam Darnold returning home to play in Los Angeles. And it is a Rams team that has no respect, or they're not getting any respect really from anybody at this point. The Vikings are being discounted by everybody despite winning 14 games or 14-3 this season. That's pretty damn good. And the Rams, I think, I want to say the Rams were 9-7, or I'm sorry, 9-8 or 10-7. 10-7. Okay. So these guys, they have won some quality games, but they've lost some bad games too. And you ask yourself about the Rams, you're like, well, I don't know, who have they beaten? Who have they really beaten that was good? And was it decisive? And was it at home or was it on the road? What did they do? So as we look at the Rams' schedule, it's kind of a head scratcher. I look at it and say, well, this is not a playoff team. But they are a playoff team because why? They won their division. So when you look at what the Rams have done, you say, okay, well, outside of the preseason, they went to Detroit. They lose a close one at Detroit. They go to Arizona. They get pummeled. They win at San Francisco when San Francisco was still good. They lose to the Bears. They lost to the Packers. They beat Vegas, like everybody else. They did beat the Vikings at home. This is a rematch. 20 points the Vikings scored. 20. That's it. 20 to the Rams 30. Can't figure that one out. They beat Seattle on the road. They lose to Miami when Miami had an injured Tua. They beat the Patriots. They lose. They get smoked by Philadelphia. They beat New Orleans like everybody else. Somehow they beat Buffalo 44-42. And that was at home again. My point is the big games that they've won at home against playoff teams, well, they were good teams. I mean, they beat big playoff teams. And you ask yourself, can they beat the Minnesota Vikings? I'm going to tell you straight up, absolutely not. It will be the Vikings advancing along with Philadelphia and possibly Washington. Back here in a few minutes on the Circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at Chicago Food Favorites. How do you like that one, folks? Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Folks, make sure you check that out. If you're listening in on the radio or watching on TV, check out Chicago Food Favorites. It's a fun page on Facebook. It's free. I'm the administrator, plus maybe I added one or two other people to do it. So don't go spamming the page, but it's a culmination of recipes and restaurants and your likes, your dislikes, surveys, whatever the hell it is. And I encourage everybody to participate, post recipes and your favorite thoughts about foods, this, that, and the other, what you like, what you don't like, where's cool, where you don't like. And listen, there are people from all corners of the earth, for all you flat earthers out there, right? There are people literally from all over the globe that participate on the page, from Michigan to our friends in Bay City, Michigan, you know who you are, all the way to Milano in Italy, to Sydney, Australia. Yeah, they're over there too, and even down to Santiago, Chile, and Buenos Aires and São Paulo, Brazil, plus all of our friends across these United States of America. Listen, it's not just people in Chicago. It's people that like foods that either A, are prevalent in the Chicago area, or some of the restaurants, maybe they've opened up another one here or there, whatever. And in fact, recently I posted something for Luke's. Luke's has really good Italian beef and good everything else, but they are over in at Harlem and Belmont in Chicagoland, but they've also opened up in the greater Phoenix Valley too. So for example, you can get a Luke's Italian beef and all their other goodies over in the Phoenix Valley, just like Salerno's Pizza, my favorite, of course, back home in Chicago. And there's multiple Salerno's pizzas, but the best one I feel is way out west, about an hour west of the city in St. Charles. In fact, Salerno's also is available in the Phoenix Valley. Can't wait to go there and have some pizza with, of course, the great Brian Urlacher. Right? Brian owes me a pizza. And, I mean, there's lots of them. And look at Portillo's is everywhere. Now, Portillo's on them. They started out as a little hot dog cart, serving hot dogs in Chicagoland. My father knew the founder of the company way back in the day, and geez, they went from a little hot dog cart to a nationally, or better yet, a publicly traded company with restaurants all over the place, from Florida to Colorado to California, Arizona, whatever. They're all over the place. But again, these are Chicago foods that have migrated out to different parts of the country as well. And of course, you can always check those out online, just like our friends Al's Beef. You can go to alsbeef.com and check them out too. All right. Lots of food. We could do this one all day, but I want to get back to I want to wrap up the bracket reel here for the NFL playoffs and then move on from there. And as I see it, look, and I said this before the season started, it was going to be Kansas City and the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are supposed to be there this year. And all I can tell you is it's all about... Show me the money! That's right. It's all about the money. And in fact, if you saw the game between the Vikings and the Detroit Lions, it appeared to me, of course, I want to say the game was absolutely fixed. I could tell you, in my opinion, from what I saw, the referees were compromised and the Minnesota Vikings kicker was compromised. Those are the pieces, as I saw it, that changed the complexion of the game, even when it came to the alleged no intentional grounding by Jared Goff in the end zone, in his own end zone, which would have resulted in a safety. And then, of course, Minnesota would have took the ball. When Jared Goff clearly threw the ball at the feet of his lineman rather than a receiver that was allegedly the target, which was 15 feet away from there off to the right. It made no sense. Yet on the next series, it was, well, how convenient that Sam Darnold threw the ball in the direction of his receiver. He was hit when he was going down. The ball fell about 10 yards short, and so he was flagged for intentional grounding. I mean, it's just ridiculous how the money flow changes everything as I see it. I can't say for sure, but it's supposed to be Detroit and Kansas City. Kansas City is supposed to be the back-to-back-to-back or three-peat for the first time in Super Bowl history, the back-to-back-to-back champion for the National Football League, or the Super Bowl champion. And so that's how this is arguably supposed to be played out. And so here's an interesting tidbit here. We take a look at the odds. These are the Vegas odds. According to Caesars Palace and Bally's and MGM Resorts International, they actually have the Detroit Lions as the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl, which is complete lunacy. Nonetheless, MGM has them at a plus 280, so put up 100 to win $280. They've got the Chiefs as plus 350. Get your bets in now, folks. And in fact, at Caesars Palace, it is Detroit plus 290, so you get an extra 10 cents there. That's what they call them, 10-cent line. So you put up 100 to win $290, and the same 350 for the Chiefs. And now over at Bally's, you get an extra 10 cents, so you put up 100, you win 300 at Bally's, and you'll win only 325 if you put up 100 and Kansas City wins. So your best place to bet, if you're going to bet the Detroit Lions to win the Super Bowl, would be at Bally's currently. And of course, if you're betting the Kansas City Chiefs, you're going to get 350 at either Caesars Properties or MGM. Now, if you're looking for the Ravens, you'll end up with a 6-1 gainer. So the Ravens will be put up 100 to win 600. Buffalo is a nice plus 650. We like that one for sure. And actually, that's an online betting. The casinos have Buffalo at plus 600 or just a straight 6-1, just like the Ravens. The Eagles are 7-1, essentially across the board. The Vikings, a big price, at 16-1. 16-1 is largely due to what just happened with that game against, well, Detroit, which really was a game against the money and a game against what? Oh, the referees. And if you're really swinging for the fences, Green Bay is an 18-1 shot. Tampa is a 30-1 shot. I kind of like that one because Tampa can get lucky. The Chargers are 35-1, 30-1 in different places as well. And the Rams are a lofty 45-1, and Commanders are 55-1. And Denver, if you're really trying to roll the dice, you can get 80-1 at MGM. Just like with the Texans, and Steelers are a 100-1. So ultimately, show me the money, and we'll show you a winner. All right, enough of that stuff. So of course, we had some contract incentives that were earned in the last games of these. So Mike Evans, in his last one, he got an extra $3 million bonus for crossing the 1,000 receiving mark. And of course, in addition, he also got another $666,666, or whatever the hell it is, by finishing in the top 10. So he just made himself about $3.75 million, or $3 2/3 million. Geno Smith from Seattle, $6 million in bonuses with his win over the Rams by reaching career high in passing yards, completion percentage, and helping Seattle to 10 wins. He got paid $6 extra million. Baker Mayfield got an extra $2.5 million for finishing in the top 10 in league or top 5 in NFC categories such as passer rating, touchdown passes, passing yards, completion percentage, and yards per pass attempt. And of course, those all were worth $500,000 a piece. Linebacker Von Miller for Buffalo, I always want to say for Denver. No, he got himself a cool $1.5 million bonus for getting an early sack against the Patriots, which brings him, of course, to 6th of the season, which triggers the bonus. Cortland Sutton for the Denver Broncos got himself $500,000 for hitting a yardage plateau of 500 to 750, and then an additional $500,000 for eclipsing 1,065 yards. It's crazy stuff. Mac Hollins, wide receiver for Buffalo, he caught 2 passes, and he had 30 catches, which gave him a $50,000 bonus. Pretty modest, but that's good. Punter, how do you like this? Sam Martin for the Buffalo Bills. That's right, the punter got incentives as well. Martin needed one more punt down inside the 20 to get an extra $100,000. And of course, he did it. How do you like that? For all our punter friends out there, all the Colquitts. How about Derrick Henry? Well, he got himself $500,000 when he hit 1,200 and 1,500 rushing yards. Of course, he already banked another 1,783 yards, and his 14 touchdowns means he got another $500,000 for scoring 13 touchdowns, and yet another $500,000 for hitting over 15. And yet he got another $500,000, of course, if they get really to the Super Bowl. So look, there's all kinds of big incentives here. How about an offensive or an outside linebacker? How about Kyle Van Noy from Baltimore? Because he got a sack record at the 12.5 sack mark, he got an extra $250,000 there. Mike Gesicki from the Cincinnati Bengals, he got 3 receiving yards, so it gave him an extra $125,000 in incentives. Saquon Barkley got an extra $500,000 for getting the yards he got, and even Zach Ertz got in on it, the tight end for Washington. And yes, he was set to earn $250,000 each for catching 60-plus passes, tallying 60-plus receiving yards, and scoring 6 touchdowns. Coming into the game, his final game, he needed 5 catches, 62 yards, 2 touchdowns to hit those incentives. And thanks to one heck of a game against Atlanta, he did it in total, including overtime, yes, with the Commanders winning. Ertz caught 6 passes, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns, earning all 3 incentives, or $750,000 in bonus. And of course, but he wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for overtime. But guess what? That doesn't matter because he ended up getting the money.
Show me the money!
Yeah, buddy. All right, back here for the final segment on the Sports Circus in just a few minutes, folks. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work. And and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, prior guests, or recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're there, even YouTube. Also, make sure you check out the partners page. Lots of great partners over there. Oh, by the way, folks, I'm going to just double back here on the upcoming guests. Got a few really good upcoming guests coming on. And we're going to have a country music star on here. We're going to have a country music star. And we're also going to bring on the great Leroy Irvin. Leroy is a 5-time Pro Bowler. Of course, Leroy always gets a nice big round of applause. In fact, we've got some media, some press coming up on that. I don't want to spoil the surprise. And we're going to have the great Ryan Stiles on the show. And Ryan is one of those guys, man. He is funny. Funny guy. If you remember that show, 2.5 Men. So Ryan's been on, he was a regular on 2.5 Men. Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's one of my favorite shows. And Ryan's going to join us probably in about a week or so. And we have to get the schedule straight. And plus, we have some other musical guests coming up that we can't tell you who's coming out just yet. But it's going to be a lot of fun here on the Sports Circus. All right. So when we listen to Pick Your Favorite Show, in many cases, you'll hear people make audible mistakes. They'll say, like, you know, you hear a lot of that stuff. And it is nails on chalkboard. Absolute nails on chalkboard. In the same way as I mentioned when we were on break, if you are one of those coffee drinkers and you go to pick your favorite coffee outlet, whatever, and it's like, what would you like with it? Hi, I'm your barista, whatever. And I'm going to take your order. How can I help you? And would you, I would like a coffee with cream and sugar. Oh, you want a coffee with cream and sugar? You're doing that kind of crap. It's like, shut up already. Stop doing that. Stop going da-da-da-da-da. That is so annoying. And what's just as annoying is when athletes don't prepare or they just don't give a damn when they're talking. Why does it matter? Because there is professional training involved here. And there is a lot of damage control that can be done for teams and for the players and their agents and everybody involved if the players listen to the media training that they're given. So I took this from MediaTrainerPro.com. And this is one of the organizations, there's hundreds and hundreds of these organizations that professionally train athletes on how to speak to the media. And they say, mastering interviews and press conferences. Interviews and press conferences are critical moments for athletes to communicate their message effectively and shape public perception. By mastering these media interactions, athletes can navigate tough questions, stay on message, and make a positive impact. So, preparing for interviews and press conferences, they say thorough preparation is key to success in interviews and press conferences. Athletes should dedicate time to research topics or events they will be discussing. This includes understanding context, current events, and potential areas of interest for journalists. Conducting mock interviews with a media coach or teammate can help athletes anticipate questions and practice their responses. And of course, to prepare, this is for you, Tyreek Hill, to prepare effectively, according to Media Trainer Pro, they say, first, anticipate questions. Athletes should put themselves in the shoes of the journalist and consider what questions they might ask. By anticipating potential inquiries, athletes can formulate thoughtful answers ahead of time. Number 2, develop key messages. Identifying key messages ensures that athletes stay focused on their intended talking points during interviews or press conferences. These messages should align with their personal brand and overall communication strategy. And third, they say, practice effective delivery. Athletes should practice delivering their message with confidence, clarity, and authenticity. Paying attention to body language, tone of voice, and pacing helps convey confidence during media interactions. And of course, there's a section for handling difficult questions with grace, Tyreek Hill. Facing tough questions is inevitable in interviews or press conferences, and athletes should approach challenging inquiries with grace while staying true to their key messages. And of course, there are tips. So they say, Media Trainer Pro says, remain calm, stay on message, avoid confrontation, redirect questions. I kind of like this one. When faced with inappropriate or irrelevant questions, athletes can politely redirect their conversation back to relevant topics by acknowledging the question briefly before pivoting to their desired talking point. And so these are really important things. Now, we're going to go ahead and go over to Tyreek Hill. I'm going to take a sound bite here that was on X, formerly Twitter. And this was a question by Omar Kelly. So actually, it's Tyreek Hill and Omar Kelly, blue check, whatever. And here is a blurb, basically the last minute. And I want you to listen to this. Here we go.
Getting us going, but whenever you're missing, your franchise player, man, it kind of sucks. So,
as a captain, what is the message you have to these guys in the offseason? And you won't feel this at the end of the season.
I don't even know, bro. This is my first time. I haven't been in the playoffs, man. So, I mean, for me, like I said, man, I just got to do what's best for me and my family, dog. If that's here, if that's wherever the case may be, man, I'm finna open that door for myself, dog. As I'm opening the door, like I'm out, bro. So it was great playing here, but at the end of the day, bro, I got to do what's best for for my career and what's best, because I'm too much of a competitor to be just out there.
Mean you thinking about leaving here?
If it is, yes.
And that was it. This guy. I don't know, dog. I don't know, bro. I finna do this. I finna do that. What the beep is that all about? This guy was not prepared. He handled this with zero grace, and he is just a sore loser. Just a sore loser. And again, his words, quote, "This is my first time I haven't been in the playoffs, man. So I just got to do what's best for me and my family. If that's here or wherever the case may be, I'm finna open that door for myself. I'm opening the door. I'm out, bro. It was great playing here, but at the end of the day, I got to do what's best for my career because I'm too much of a competitor to be just out there," close quote. Shut up. Just shut up already. Look, this guy has so much money being thrown at him. It's lunacy. It's complete lunacy. All-pro wide receiver, Super Bowl champion, all this other stuff. He's just not used to losing. And he didn't like it. Oh, shut up already. Look, this guy is in the middle, basically finishing up a 3-year, $120 million contract. Are you really hurting for money? Is that what this is about? Or are you just crying because you didn't make the playoffs? I mean, seriously, Tyreek Hill, you have just hurt yourself in a lot of different ways because a lot of teams are going to listen to that interview. They're going to watch that interview that was done on X, and they're going to say, you know what? I don't know if we want a guy like him. And honestly, the Kansas City Chiefs, they got themselves somebody that's just as fast, doesn't cost as much, and he's just happy to be there in the first place. And they got a backup that is the same damn way. So the Chiefs obviously knew what they were doing, and they were able to cut bait. Now, speaking of which, you think about teams that are not able to cut bait, and how about this NFL draft order? This is kind of a thing here. So you think about who really stunk. Well, tell you what, there was 10 teams that really stunk, and probably more. And of course, the worst team, which really wasn't the worst team, was the Tennessee Titans at 3-14. They are going to pick number 1 in the upcoming draft. It's kind of a weak draft, though. Cleveland, with the same record, is going to pick number 2. What are Cleveland's needs? Maybe they need a quarterback. That's right. They have the worst contract in the history of the National Football League for a quarterback in Deshaun Watson. $250 million guaranteed. Yeah, that would be a flush down the toilet sound, if you know what I mean. The New York Football Giants, also 3-14. A really bad football team as I see it. The Patriots, just as bad at 4-13. They fired their coach. He's out after 1 year. He couldn't handle it. Jacksonville, with their injuries, finished 4-13. There's a team that's going to do really well with this draft. The question is, what do they need? Maybe another wide receiver? Who knows? How about the Raiders? Those guys. The Raiders finished 4-13. And they should be giving Aiden O'Connell that job to be the starting quarterback for a full season instead of trying to plug the dam with a piece of bubble gum and say, well, you're not doing well, so we're going to bring in this guy and we're going to bring in that guy. Who gives a damn? Gardner Minshew is not the guy. We know that. Everybody knows that. Aiden O'Connell with the big arm hasn't been given the opportunity. Let this kid play. The New York Jets, we'll call them the New Jersey Jets, right? Because they do play in New Jersey just like the Giants. They finished at 5-12. They're going to pick 7. And likely Aaron Rodgers is done in the National Football League. Carolina Panthers, who finished pretty well. They played pretty well in the last half of the season. 5-12, they're going to pick 8th. The Saints, just a really bad football team. 5-12, along with the Chicago Bears. The New Orleans Saints are picking 9th ahead of the Bears, who pick 10th in this. And all the other teams that don't really matter. You think about the Bears, for example. Of course, I'm wearing Bears colors right here. And, of course, 4 Chicago food favorites. We're going to talk just briefly about that. And, look, it's the Bears needing an offensive line to protect that quarterback. Now, we saw last year with Justin Fields. Justin Fields would throw the ball just willy-nilly to anybody seemingly late in the game. A lot of interceptions. And Caleb Williams doesn't do that. He takes a lot of coverage sacks. But the problem is he needs a better quarterback coach and he needs a better offensive line. Chicago Bears will likely be drafting for offensive line. Going back to the top, Tennessee will draft probably for a quarterback. The Cleveland Browns will be looking for a quarterback. The Giants will be looking for a quarterback. But there's a couple of guys out there. The Patriots, they don't necessarily need a quarterback. They need someone to throw the ball to. And the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 5 could probably use an extra receiver, maybe a tight end. The Raiders need a lot. The Jets need a lot and a quarterback. Carolina, I think Bryce Young is turning in to be a pretty decent quarterback, so they're not really looking for a quarterback right now. And also, the Saints basically need everything except the wide receiver because Olave can handle that. Outside of that, they're in trouble. Folks, that's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you next time right here on your favorite station in about 23 hours. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.